Welcome everyone to this workshop that the Canadian Angus Association has so generously put together for us. Our first speaker today will be Lexi Wright. Lexi Wright is your member service team leader. Lexi grew up on a dairy farm at Didsbury, Alberta, where she was actively involved in the day-to-day farm operation, as well as her local 4-H club. She spent over 10 years leading the Mountain View 4-H Dairy Club and was the committee chair for 12 years for the Western Canadian Classic 4-H Dairy Show. Lexi's employment background includes office experience from Canadiana Genetics for 10 years and product development and genetics experience from Alta Genetics for 8 years. And more recently, the experience she gained as owner and editor of her family's North American publication, Cosmopolitan Dairy Magazine, which she sold in March 2019. Lexi has been the member service team lead since October 7th, 2019, and she enjoys working closely with members to bring more understanding to genetic testing with goals of continuing to improve efficiencies. And so I'll just let you take it away from here, Lexi.
Memberships. So when you apply for your membership, then you would send an email to us entering any of your traits. So like weaning weights, your calving data information, mature cow weights, yearling weights, that type of thing. Of course, we handle the majority of the phone calls and registrations. So when you're applying for registration of a calf, and then of course, transfers, and then anything to do with sire authorizations and donor dam approvals so that you guys can get your calves registered. So the various memberships that Canadian Angus provides and the programs, and just kind of a breakdown on what the difference. So I believe that most of you would be either juniors, all juniors here, Belinda, is that correct? Or some?
Mostly, yes.
Okay, so we have the juniors, and then we have young breeders. So juniors are up to 21 years of age. Young breeders are between 22 and 31. And then you have your regular members. So once you fall out of your age category as 31, then you become a regular member. And then we have something called a non-financial member. Those members are members that are commercial members that perhaps a purebred breeder has sold like a bull to or a cow to, and they're not interested in registering, but they're still part of our database. So with those, we have some programs. So what we call CAP is the Canadian Angus Performance Program. So basically this is actually free for juniors. And it gives you a price break on registrations and transfers. But the big thing with the CAP program is it allows you to obtain EPD information through our genetic valuation system. So this is a whole herd reporting format. So all of the information on yearly calvings and weaning weights, that type of thing, is all required in order to be part of this program. Now we also have what we call the ACE program. The ACE program is a $65 per cow enrollment free. Juniors get the first 5 cows free. So the ACE program basically gives breeders the option to pay an annual fee per cow enrolled, and it gives you access to a number of member services, a number of things in member services at no cost. The requirement for this each year is to submit female exposures and disposals must be provided in December of each year, because the beginning of January we charge for those cows either on a semi-annual or triannual or annual basis. I'm just going to stop here. Does anybody have any questions on this at all? Okay, not, I will continue on and we'll have a question and answer period or a question period at the end as well. So some of the yearly timelines that are really important for you to remember are in January, we have our membership and program renewals. So that's whatever your membership may be, as well as your ACE and your performance programs. Of course, you start recording calving data and calving ease, dam, and teat and udder scores at this time when you're calving out your cows. And then, of course, yearling weights get submitted in any ultrasound scanning, stroke, circumference, hip height, foot and leg, and docility score. This is also a prime time to order RFID indicators from CCIA. So we no longer carry the indicators. They have to be ordered through CCIA. We just have the Angus tags that can be purchased, which are the herd management tags through the Canadian Angus Association. This is also a good time to order your TSUs. So that's your sampling kits for or blood or hair cards. And again, of course, your management tags. And then April to August. So your best time to submit your registrations is between that 0 and 7 month period, because that is the best price that you get. So after they are 7 months and 1 day old, then they become a higher price, and it's significantly higher. So for example, CAP members are $20, and then at 7 months and 1 day, it becomes 66, 67. So you can see there's a considerable jump. So it's important to register your calves early. And then September to December, it's important to remember to get all your calves registered and submit your weaning weights and your dam mature weights and body condition and docility scores at this time. Also at this time, we're enrolling for ACE for the upcoming year. So female exposures are really important. And then herd inventories are sent out in December for the upcoming calving season. So just to go over briefly what's required with the registration process. So this is a form that we have on our website, but you can also register through Angus Now, which I'll take you on a quick little tour when we get finished here. Sorry. So you want to provide your membership number, whether or not your performance number, and then your address information. Your genetic tag or tattoo. So for your dam, always important to include the full tattoo, not just 123H. We want to see the full tattoo. Same thing applies with your sire. And then you need to choose whether or not your sire is AI or natural. So in this case, this one, this one is natural. And then the start of the service date. So when the bull was put out with the cows would go in here. And then we have the tattoo that your calf is going to be, and the birth date when it was born, as well as the sex and the number born. So if there was multiple in the birth, then you would put 2 or 3 here if you had triplets, for example. Calving ease. So in this case, I've just marked it as unassisted, and you have options for that. And then we have birth weight, birth group, and then of course your color. Here, you're allowed to choose whether or not you want to register the calf or not make it unregistered. If it's unregistered, we give it what they call a CM number, so it becomes a commercial animal. When you register the calf, you also have the option to choose whether or not you want to parent verify. So that's what PEV stands for, or Angus GS test. So the Angus GS test is a parent verification along with additional information for your genetic valuation. So more traits. And then of course the animal that you want to, the name of the animal that you want to give it. So the only difference on this next one is we have a disposal code on the dam. So at this time, you can also say that you disposed of the cow after, the calf was born. Here we have an AI service. So we chose yes, and you must put in a date for your AI service here. So, and then we have the difference of a red calf here. And so therefore your animal's name would be Red Canadian, and then the rest of the name. So that just kind of gives you a bit of an overview of what we require for the calf registrations. So some of the common questions that we get in registration. So one is, of course, how do I submit my work? So you can email your information to registry at CDN Angus or utilize the fax number. You can also mail it. When you're emailing or mailing, it's really important to include the complete information on the tattoo of the animal, your name, your contact information, and your member ID. So there's no guessing work, and we don't have to send you an email back asking you what you're referencing. Most things we're not able to accept over the phone, but we're certainly happy to answer any questions that you may have. We do require most everything in writing. So what is a CM and a question mark number? So when a calf is registered, it has a 7-digit number, so just a straight number. But a CM number means the animal has been recorded in the system, but it's not registered. And it can be registered, though, later upon request if it fits all the criteria required. A pending, which is a question mark animal, so it would be a question mark and then a number of numbers afterwards, means that that additional information is needed to complete the animal's registration. And when you try to register that calf, you will receive a request for information, which we call RFIs, with details sent to either your email, or if you don't have an email on file, then it will be sent via mail. So what should I record for service date? So the service date on the application for registration is the first day of natural service exposure, or the AI date, or if it's an embryo transfer calf, it would be the implant date for the ET calves. And you must record if it's ET or AI. Why am I getting an error on a sire when trying to register? So you either have not recorded it as being by AI, or you have missed putting in the AI date. You do not have access to the bull. The bull hasn't been leased to your name. So therefore you wouldn't have sire authorization. You have not been given sire authorization for using a sire. So there is a $50 charge per member setup for owner's use on bulls that are sold semen to other members for, and they are using. So this would be if you purchase semen on a bull from a breeder that's not an AI company. And then the owner of a bull you used as a walking sire has not given you authorization to use it, or the bull is not parent verified as per our policies. So this is really important when you're buying American semen that's not brought in through an AI unit, is to make sure that the bulls are parent verified, because there are a number in the states. Their regulations were different at one time, and they did not have to be parent verified. They could just be sire verified. And then the other thing is when a bull's not been imported to the Canadian Angus system from another country. So for example, American Angus. So sometimes AI companies perhaps haven't got their work done, and then this would be the case where you just need to contact them and ask them to get the bull registered. So when a calf is registered, when you register a calf and it's pending DNA or it's pending another error, so therefore it has that question mark before its number, So your pricing doesn't actually go up until 180 days from the time that the animal is registered. So for example, if your calf is 6 months old, when you receive that, you would receive that pricing as long as the error is resolved by 180 days after the date. So that's quite a significant period of time, that's 6 months. So gives you a lot of time to get calves DNA'd out of the pasture, that type of thing, if you do have something pending. So why are what is an RFI and why are they important? So that's a request for information I mentioned before. And so you obviously get these each time with registering an animal if there's an error. You also would get a full list of your RFI sent you 4 times a year, so every 3 months. So it's really important to send all changes that you may have as soon as possible so that your calves get registered in a timely manner. How does an animal get suspended and how do I fix it? So an animal gets suspended if they come back with an unconfirmed sire or dam or both, or its dam or sire gets suspended. So the best way to resolve this is to submit alternate sires when the Canadian Angus staff emails you to let you know about the suspension so that we can try and resolve it as quickly as possible for you. Can females be jointly owned? So yes, females can be jointly owned. However, they must be registered to all owners' names in one account and are set up as a non-financial. So if it was, say, Lexi, Wright, and Ken Ray Ranch that bought an animal together, then this non-financial account would be set up as Lexi Wright and Ken Ray Ranch. It would not be set up under the 2 different accounts linked together. So upon registration of your calf, then the female has to be leased back to the person registering the calf under their tattoo letters. So unless you want to open up another account with new tattoo letters for the joint account, which most people do not want to do. However, males can be owned as a syndicate and can be registered jointly in their members' financial accounts. So this allows all owners to register calves, so there's no issue at time of registration. How do I make a cow donor dam approved? So if you're wanting to flush a cow and register the embryo transfer calves, the cow must be parent verified to the fullest possible extent in order to register embryo transfer calves from her. If the dam of that cow that you are testing is not available, then an exemption can be requested at no charge. When transferring animals, so this is a common error that we certainly get. When you transfer an animal to another member, it's very important that you utilize the correct date that the animal was sold. Otherwise, it may cause problems with registering offspring for that cow in the following year. So EPDs, now Kajal, I know, is going to talk to you about genetic evaluations in EPDs. So basically, when you're not seeing EPD information on your animal, there's a few reasons that could be why you're not seeing the information. So your animal is still pending, so it's not registered. So unregistered animals do not get EPDs. You have missing herd inventory or weaning weight data. So because it's a whole herd reporting, we do require all of the information to be submitted. Or you have not ran your performance reports in Angus Now or requested a CAA staff to do so when entering your calves into Angus Now or entering your weights in. So when submitting DNA, so that's your hair, blood, or tissue samples, what's the proper process? So it's very important that you order a test when registering your calf, or request a test request from the Canadian Angus staff, and then it will be emailed to you. Then at that time, the hair sample that you have collected, you would affix on a hair card which is free from the Canadian Angus Association, and submit with test request paperwork to the Neogen lab. So all the collection details and where to send are on the test request information for when that you receive for the animal. So it tells you all of the directions, where to send, how to collect the sample. If you do not request this paperwork, you will receive a $54 fee for not submitting paperwork with your sample to the lab. So it's a pretty hefty little price to pay for not coordinating with us. So some of the most important DNA information that we have, or things that we need to keep in mind. So all sires that are born on or after January 1st of 2019 must have a DNA parentage profile on record with the CAA showing parentage verification. So that's to both the sire and the dam before their offspring can be registered. So my advice to all of you kids, that when you're looking at buying a male for breeding purposes, make sure that he is parent verified or is able to be parent verified. So meaning that the dam is on file and able to be tested if she has not been tested. So Neogen expects to report DNA results, including your genetic conditioning, testing, parentage verification, Angus GS, and color code tests, all within 21 calendar days of the sample arriving at the lab. So it's important to remember it's from the time it gets to the lab, not from the time it leaves your door. And then the GPDs and the percentile ranks require about an additional 2 to 6 weeks to be incorporated into the monthly genetic evaluations. And so in order to verify a DNA sample has arrived at the lab, you can actually check on our DNA portal on our website, which I will show you shortly here. So we have hair, blood, tissue, and semen samples are all accepted. Obviously label clearly with the tattoo. You know, use the hair cards that you're given by the association, and make sure that they're labeled accordingly so that you can get the best turnaround time from the lab. Just a little overview of female exposures and what they look like. So basically we have a female exposure sheet here. You have your cow tattoo, you have the cow registration number. At this time, you can put in a disposal code or a disposal date and a disposal date if she's gone. If you have exposed her or bred her, then here's the opportunity to put in your calving, your sire information. So in this case, this is an AI date with a management group here. We require management groups on all of the female exposures, just like we do on all the weaning weights, the calving data, and yearling weights. And then if you were looking at a natural sire, you would have the option to put in several natural sires here with dates and management groups. Now, if you had two natural sires exposed on different dates, then you would have to then add a line on this particular sheet. So the reason that we have female exposure exposures is to it's a probability of heifer pregnancy from the first breeding period. So considering fertility is the biggest impact factor on profitability, it drives the genetic selection tools to improve fertility, and it's very valuable. So we really do encourage members to submit this information. And it also verifies pedigree. It's a way to verify pedigree information on calves. So if you've got multiple sires, it flags it in the system and will let you allow you to register if they're bred within 2 weeks of one another. So Angus Now, what's currently available, so that's our online system, which I will go through with you guys quickly. Basically, you're able to register cows, dispose of cows and calves, set up DNA at registration time, register pending animals, record weaning weights, record yearling weights, and submit transfers. So obviously the benefits of doing it online is that it's instantly available, and you know it's done right away. Ability to see the herd inventory, so you can see everything online. Ability to see all your animals that are pending, and able to see what missing data you may have. And obviously, if you're wanting to get a transfer done for a paper right away, then it's done and you get emailed the paper and you can send it to your buyer. So there's quite a few things not available right now. There will be in the future. So just setting up DNA after registration, email in, registering emails after initial registration. So if you make it a commercial animal, you have to request. Registering any imported animals, that's something that can't not be done online. Any sire authorizations or donor dam approvals, and any corrections that you may have. So hopefully some of the new things coming this year will be encompassed as you see here. So animal inquiry, EPDs, inquiry, percentile rank information, female exposure entry, and then review of the registration before you actually submit it. Okay, so now I am going to give you guys a little overview here if I can. Just gonna see if I can get to my other screen here. Hold on. Gonna pause you for a minute. New share. Okay. Okay, can you guys all see that, Angus, now? Everybody's good?
No, Lexi, we can just see your last slide.
Okay. Let me see here. Oh, let's try this.
There you go.
There?
That's good.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry, I have two screens at home, so I'm just trying to make sure I do it right. Okay, so basically what we've got here, guys, is so you basically have the member detail overview. So that's where your membership details are here. So when you sign up for Angus Now, you will get a link to set up your own password, and it's done through your email. So then just a brief overview. So the only thing you can really change on here is your email addresses. Just going over here, so we have animals, and then we have inventory overview, pending animals, registered and non-registered. So inventory overview basically shows you what is in your cow inventory. So for this year, here is his cow inventory, and you can see that he has nothing in what we call the incomplete tab. So that means he's dealt with all of his animals this year, given them calves or disposed of them. So each animal is displayed in, every cow is displayed in this screen, and it's easily searchable by just typing in up here. So what we also see in inventory overview is now once those calves are entered in, then we have the opportunity to enter in their weaning weight. So as you can see, his weaning weights have all been completed. There's nothing, no animals in this here. So we see the animals in here with their weaning weights and all of their information. So then what we can do is, so those were, sorry, those were his birth weights. I apologize. So incomplete, still the same, but his weaning weights here. So now you can see his weaning weights. Those are a little bit higher than the last ones. So basically he's got all of his information in. So that means that his herd is what we call compliant. He'll be able to get all of his information on his EPDs and such. If he was wanting to enter yearling weights, then this is where you would see where he has incomplete. So he has nothing. He's only entered a few in the complete, and he disposed of them. These ones he hasn't entered any yearling weights on, which yearling weights are not required on performance. Obviously, the more information you enter in, the more information you're going to get back out though. Okay, so that's basically the inventory overview. So you can see the years there. Now, if you had pending animals, you would see the animals sitting in here. So he currently has no pending animals. Registered animals. So you could see everything that he has registered. So he's got 614 rows. If he wanted to get the information out, he could download a CSV file by clicking on this button. It would download all of the animals in this file for you. And then we have a list of non-registered animals. So these are what we call those CM animals. Okay, so you can see those in here, and same thing, if he wanted to dispose of them, he could do so by clicking on an animal and disposing of it at that time. Okay, so then we have actions. So this is where we would register an animal. So we're, you would pick your dam here and go through all of the different steps. I'm not going to walk through all of this, you guys, because in essence of time, we just don't have enough time, but we do provide Angus Now workshops at your leisure. So if you guys ever wanted to book one, we provide a Zoom call just like this, walk you through it, and kind of help you understand how to complete all of these different tasks. So, and then again, we have animal registrations. So the same thing, you would be entering your information in here, picking your buyer, or searching for it down in this area here. So you can also see your buyers and sellers lists in here. So these are the previous 3 years, I believe, sellers and buyers lists that you have sold to. This does not mean that you can't transfer to another member, that they have to be in this list. It's just a list of previous ones. Now, when we come to reports, we have Angus Now herd reports. So this is where you would see any reports that you yourself have ran on Angus Now. And then there's the association reports. And so this is where you would see any associate reports that we ran in the office. So you can see any of your worksheets, EPDs, that type of thing will all be sitting in here, and you can click on them and download them. So, and then when you're doing work on here, we have what we call transactions. So pending transactions, if you had pending transactions, then all of the pending transactions would be sitting in here. In order for information to be processed, then you would have to submit the transactions and pay for them. And then you can also see any previous work that you've done in here with work orders, along with what we've done in the office. So that's just kind of a really general overview, you guys. So now let's take it back to questions. I know there was some questions in the chat here, so I'm going to try and read those and answer them for you. Okay, Catherine, you were asking about registrations. So do you want to just pop on and ask me that question, because I'm not 100% sure what you're asking there.
I think that was actually Cade, Lexi, that was asking that question. So Cade,
Oh,
do you
okay,
want to ask?
sorry. You said, how do we now what we have to register, know what we have to register? Is that what you're asking, Cade? Oh, there's another message here. Yeah, okay. So if you're, oh, your mic doesn't work, okay. So basically, when your cows calve, if you're wanting to, obviously anything that you record will be in the system then. So it depends on whether or not what your what your goals are for breeding, whether or not you're wanting to show the animal, whether or not you're wanting to breed from that animal. You would need to make that decision, whether or not you wanted to actually register the animal and pay for the registration. You can always record it and then decide later. So make it what we call a commercial animal, and then decide later if the calf turns out. So that's also an option. Does that answer your question? Okay, great. Now, does anybody else have any other questions about any of the stuff I presented? I know it was a bit of a whirlwind and it's a lot of information, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have on that or anything else member services related at this time. Got a quiet group tonight.
Any questions you guys ask, it'll enter you guys in a draw. So ask away. Don't be shy.
Okay, well, if you guys don't have any questions, then I'll pass it off to, I think Kajal's, I'm not sure if Kajal's next, or, but you guys do know that you're welcome to contact me at any time and ask any questions that you may have. If you're confused about something or you need help with something, that's what the member services team is here for. All of my girls are very, very good at their job and understand the system very well and understand what things need to happen in order to make registering everything easier. So when do we predict to have female exposure entries be online? Sometime next year, but I'll let Kajal speak to that because I think she knows better than I do.
Any other questions, guys?
All right, so yeah, I mean, basically, guys, we're always aiming to improve things, especially on the Angus Now end, and trying to make it easier for members and easier for data entry for people to enter information in and have access to what they want. So that's a huge goal for us in 2022, is to be able to, you know, provide more and better services, obviously, on that front for everybody. So like I said, if you guys have any questions or if anybody wants an Angus Now tour or seminar at any point, feel free to just send an email to Registry and we would be more than happy to accommodate you. And thank you very much for having me on. I really appreciate the opportunity to visit with you guys.
Hey, Lexi.
Yeah.
So I've got a bull there now. I was just curious. I may just need to call you there sometime for business hours, but now it doesn't show up in my Angus Now, but it shows up under the authorized users.
Okay. What is, yeah, I can't look that up right now. So your best bet is just to send an email to the girls tomorrow and ask them why, you know, why it's not showing up in, so it's not showing up in your Angus Now, but it's showing up on authorized users.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Just
Alrighty.
send the girls an email tomorrow to Registry and they'll look after it for you.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Yeah, no problem. can you register a 4-H animal? Is the 4-H animal from a registered purebred bull and cow? Ashton?
I believe so.
Okay, if it's from a registered purebred Angus bull and cow, then yes, you can register it. Now, do you have a membership with a tattoo? That's the next question.
Yes.
Okay, so if you have, as long as you have a tattoo and a herd name, then there should be no issue.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Cade, how do you create Angus Now? Cade, do you have a junior membership, or what kind of membership do you have? All you need to do is email Registry and ask them to set you up with an Angus Now account. So registry@cdnangus.ca and just ask if you set up on Angus Now. As long as you have a credit card on file on your account, you can be set up. And you have a current year membership. Anybody else? Nope. Okay. Well, that's good. Thanks, guys. Thanks for the questions. That was good.
Okay, guys. Well, we'll move on to our next speaker. Remember that you guys can ask questions anytime in the chat throughout the speakers. So our next speaker is going to be Kajal, and I'll try and do my best to keep it short. Kajal. Kajal leads the generation of genetic evaluations for Canadian Angus breeding stock, and she identifies and monitors genetic conditions and counsels the association members and application of genetic tools to balance and optimize the healthy herds and economic gain. Kajal was raised in Kenya on a mixed farm, and she has a PhD in animal genetics from the University of Calgary. Kajal is very passionate about her genetics, and she is Kajal knows that our business, even at its most scientific, is a people business, and she is very committed to creating value at every level for every one of our members. So I'll just let you kind of take it away from here, Kajal.
Okay, thanks, Robert. You did a great job keeping that short. So let's continue this conversation that everybody's been having with Lexi. And if you look at your Zoom, can you all hear me?
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you.
If you could look at your Zoom, you can actually raise your hand and interact quite a bit. So I was just hoping anybody who actually does the registrations, do you want to put up your hand or do a thumbs up just so we know who does their own registrations? Nice job, Austin, Morgan. Excellent. So let's talk about why you register animals, because that was a question that Cade asked. And then we'll talk about how all of the information that Lexi just gave you about what to enter in the system gets used towards what we hope will be genetic improvement, okay? So Lexi showed you how our system works. It's called a database, and how you can record animals that you want to register, or even just animals you want to record but not register. And Kate asked, how do I know what animal to register? And that's sort of the crux of being a seed stock producer, right? The main goal of being a seed stock producer is to create these superior genetics that then go into the commercial sector of the beef industry and get multiplied. So you want to start off with the best genetic potential possible, because then that gets multiplied and pushed down the value chain into what we really call the beef production chain, right? I'm going to share my screen with you so you can start seeing my slides. There you go. Should be able to see my slides now. Yes?
Yep, you're good.
Good. So what we call seed stock or breeding stock is really a group of male and female animals that will act as parents for future generations. And the point of being seed stock is that we actually identify genetics that are better to use in this generation so that each generation is better. So Kate, you asked, well, how do we know what to register? Well, that's what I want to talk about next, because Lexi kind of showed you how to register and how the system works and the data that we collect. But I want to talk to you about how we identify those superior genetics, those animals with maybe the highest genetic potential that we can use in this generation to make the next generation better. Okay, stop me if you have any questions at any time. So what does genetic potential mean? When we look at a phenotype, so a phenotype is anything that you can actually see or measure in people, in animals, etc. That is made of several different aspects. It's genetic as well as environmental. So when I talk about genetic potential, it really truly is the genes inside an animal, okay? Because that's what's going to go into the next generation. So here's your biology 101 lesson for any of you that are starting to take this at school. You know that DNA is made up of just 4 letters, G's, T's, C's, and A's, and they code for everything that happens in anything that's living. And that's our genetic potential. So we're talking about differences in DNA between animals. Now, 99% or 98% of the DNA in cattle is the same. But at certain spots, there are differences where here one animal has a C and another animal might have a G, and that will make them different. There are places in the DNA specific that maybe there's a base pair that's missing. So maybe there's like a C that's missing. So this isn't here, it's deleted. And that can make a difference in animals. And that's what attributes to the differences that we see in animals. And so what we're wanting to do is record everything about the animals that we raise so that we can measure those differences, and then we can identify which animals have better genetic potential for traits that are important to us, and then use those better animals for the next generation. Does that make sense to everybody? So for selective breeding, so that's basically the process of making each generation better, you need 5 main things. So the traits that you're looking at, and by trait, I mean something like growth potential, coat color is a trait, marbling potential is a trait. These are all traits. Calving ease is a trait. Birth weight is a trait. So the traits have to be heritable, i.e. there has to be some genetic contribution or some genetic control happening with the trait, okay? There has to be genetic variation, as in not all animals, if all the animals were the same, if you looked at the entire Angus population and every single animal was black, for example, then you couldn't make a change to coat color because every animal is black. There's nothing naturally to change. Whereas actually that's not the case, right? We can change coat color because there's already variation in the population. We can change birth weight because there's already variation in the population. Some animals have the genetic potential for 80-pound birth weight. Some animals have genetic potential for 100-pound birth weight. So you can move that trait as an average in the population. Another requirement is that you have to then decide, what do you want to change? What traits do you want to shift? What do you want to make better? And how is it better? And I'll give you an example. Birth weight is a trait. It's genetic, as in genes contribute to what an animal's birth weight is. So it meets that first requirement and it meets that second requirement. The third requirement is you have to decide the direction of selection. So if we want to talk about this and discuss, everybody knows birth weight's important. You don't want too much birth weight because you don't want calving these problems, but you don't want too little birth weight because then you have calves that don't have good vigor, you have calves that don't have good growth. So you have to decide what direction you want to move your herd in when it comes to a trait like birth weight. So do you see the third parameter here? You have to define the direction where you want to go, where that trait needs to go, okay? And typically when you make genetic improvement, it includes the whole breed. If everybody is selecting for something specific, so let's say really in all reality, everybody selects for good growth, strong growth, right? So you're moving the whole breed forward. I had a meeting with a lot of different beef breeds this afternoon, and they were comparing all the beef breeds for marbling. And because Angus producers and members have access to marbling EPDs and have been selecting for carcass quality for so long, the whole breed marbles better. And so when we were comparing EPDs between breeds even, we're talking about, look how much further Angus has gotten as a population and as a breed in carcass quality because everybody's been selecting for the same direction. So that's the fourth parameter. And the fifth parameter is these breeding decisions should be made with the future in mind, because we're not talking about what the cattle look like today. We're talking about identifying the best cattle today to create the next generation, right? So what we're talking about is what traits will be important in the next generation. Does that make sense? Hopefully that's clear. Stop me if you have any questions, okay? Feel free to just unmute yourself and ask. Okay, so if you want to talk about the power of selection and genetic selection, and if you want me to give you examples of how does it really work, I want you to have a look at this slide. So this is ancient corn. This is what it looked like. And these kernels are really, really dry, really hard, and not a lot of production, right? Each generation was selected for softer kernels and more production. And you can see how over time corn has changed. The same with brassica. This is actually one plant. And look, different selection has created what we now know as different vegetables, but they all came from the same brassica plant. But farmers selected for super leafy plants and developed cabbage. Farmers selected for bulbous plants and a little smelly, I would say, and came up with Brussels sprouts. This took many generations to make, where you're selecting for the same thing. You keep selecting the best plants that have the quality you're looking for, and what you can do is drive change. So what I'm trying to give you an example of here is how you can drive change if you have a goal in mind. And then you keep that goal and keep selecting the best animals or the best parents each generation to breed towards that goal. Okay. And the same principle works in livestock. And this is the best example to show you. Here is chicken. This is in 1957. You can see what it looks like at different days of growth. Okay, so this is at day 43. This is chicken in 2003. And all that they did here in this industry is use EPDs to select for growth. So it would be the same as if we used the carcass weight EPD. You can see that there's quite a significant change if you compare these carcass qualities or carcass production. Same gains are made in poultry, in hogs, in dairy, and also in beef. So this is just me trying to show you visually that if you have a specific goal, genetic selection works to get you to that goal. So let's talk about how much genetics is involved in each trait. Remember I said the first parameter for genetic selection is that the trait has to be contributed to by genes, by genetics. So heritability is the technical term for how much variation you see in a trait is caused by genes. So for example, coat color. 100% of variation in coat color is caused by genes because there's not a lot of environmental impact on coat color, right? It's genetic, kind of like the color of your hair. Unless you're using, let's say, a dye, the color of your hair is dictated by your genetics. Something a little bit more complex, like growth. So how tall you are, it's a little bit dictated by your genetics, but also maybe a little bit dictated by your environment in terms of how much food and nutrition you had, right? So same with cattle. This tells you the percentage of the trait, the differences we see in the trait that's caused by genetics, and the rest is by environment. So for example, calving ease, 20% of the differences that we see between animals for calving ease is caused by genetics. The other 80% is caused by environment. So that would be weather, temperature, nutrition, stress. So everything that goes into environment and management, okay? Whereas just as a contrast or in comparison, for scrotal circumference, 40% of the differences we see between animals is caused by genetics. So for each trait, it's different how much the environment contributes to the change and how much genetics contributes to the change. But this tells you that for all these traits, if we identify animals that are better for these traits in each generation and keep those animals and breed those animals, then the next generation will be better for those traits. The next generation will have better genetic potential for those traits. So Lexi was telling you about our system and how you can record everything. All of those things that you record about your animals goes into creating EPDs for all of these traits. So what we do from the information that you record, that's the phenotype, for example, a birth weight or a weaning weight. What we do is we remove the environmental part of it and we give you just the genetic merit of the animal, and that's called an EPD. And then you can use that EPD to identify animals that are superior for those traits and use them to breed for the next generation. Okay, so we have EPDs for quite a lot of traits now, and this is just growing. We have EPDs for growth in terms of birth weight, weaning weight, yearling weight. We have EPDs for some female production traits like milk, calving ease, heifer pregnancy. This is what Lexi was talking to you about, entering that breeding information. We pair that information. This cow was bred, and then this cow had a calf. Good, that's fertility. This cow was bred and then didn't have a calf. That's lack of fertility, okay? So we use all that information to create these EPDs. We have EPDs for feed efficiency, docility, foot scores, and then carcass quality information like rib area, marbling, and carcass weight. So we're going to use the hands again, or you can unmute yourself or put this in the chat, but you get to go shopping with me today. We have two bulls to shop from. We have bull A and bull B. Anybody want to go shopping and pick a specific bull and tell me why you would buy him? You can put it in the chat, bull A or bull B. I'll try and help you here. So both bulls seem to be the same for birth weight. This is their EPD for birth weight. Both of them have a 3-pound birth weight. Let's look at a difference. For weaning weight, bull A has a 40-pound EPD. Bull B has a 60-pound EPD. For yearling weight, 71, 91. Or marbling, 17, 57. Yeah, a lot of you have picked bull B, probably because of those differences that I just pointed out, right? Yeah. Okay. So let's explain why, just to anybody who didn't know which one to pick. So for example, the difference between bull A and bull B, our prediction is that on average, bull A's calves will weigh 20 pounds less at weaning than bull B's calves. Because see, this weaning weight EPD, it's 60. 60 minus 40 is 20 pounds. So the difference between the average of bull B's calves and the average of bull A's calves will be 20 pounds. That's on average, okay? Same differences at yearling weight. And you can see at marbling too, we predict that bull B's calves on average will marble more than bull A's calves. Now I'm going to change it a little bit and we get to go shopping again. Okay, now we have bull A and bull B. Anybody want to buy a specific bull over another one? The EPDs look very similar. Birth weight EPD, only 1 pound difference. Weaning weight EPD, only 1 pound difference. Yearling weight EPD, only 1 pound difference. Marbling is similar. So the difference in this case, yeah, you guys got it. The difference in this case is the accuracy. So when we predict EPDs from all the data that you put in, sometimes you haven't yet measured a trait like yearling weight because the animal isn't a yearling yet. Sometimes you haven't measured carcass quality information because you haven't ultrasounded that animal yet. And that's reflected in the accuracy of the EPD. So the more data that we have on an animal, the more accurate his EPD or her EPD will be, because we can predict more accurately what his genetic potential is. So in this case, a lot of you in the chat had put both B again, because this time, even though there isn't a big difference in the EPDs, in the genetic potential, these EPDs are more reliable. Okay. And I'll show you how much by. So this is called a possible change table. If an EPD, if you're looking at a weaning weight EPD and it's only 10% accurate, that means that that EPD could change by plus or minus 14 pounds. So if the EPD was 10, the true EPD could be plus 24, but it could also be minus 4, okay, plus or minus 14 pounds. Whereas if you were looking at an EPD that was actually 70% accurate, then that EPD is within 4 pounds. So the range of possible change gives you more confidence. So Sherry, you said, does the age of the bull make a difference? Typically, the older the bull, the higher the EPD accuracy, just because the bull has had more calves, and so we have more data with which to predict that EPD. However, with genomics, sometimes a younger bull will have a more accurate EPD because we have more information on that animal. Or if you're looking at two bulls, they're maybe they're 3-year-olds, but one bull has had a calf crop and the other bull hasn't. One bull has been extensively used in several different herds and the other one doesn't. So, you know, that trend of a bull having a more accurate EPD just because he's older, it's not necessarily about age, okay? All right, so let's go back to my comment about genomics. So the data that Lexi showed you that you can record into the system, all of that goes towards predicting EPDs and trying to predict the genetic merit of animals. But in actual truth, that's all from the phenotype. We don't actually know the DNA of the animal unless we genotype it. So there is something called genomic information. There is genomic tests. The one that we've developed for Angus specifically is called Angus GS, and it helps us read the DNA so that we can make the EPDs even more accurate. So remember I showed you at the beginning just some changes that we've seen from genetic selection, and the one that you'll remember is how much poultry has changed. Well, so have cattle and so has Angus, because of our members who do identify better animals with better genetic potential and breed them into the next generation. So if you see, this is yearling weight, for example, you can see that over the last 10 years, our genetic trends go higher. For almost all traits, the genetic trends go higher. We're breeding animals each generation that have the genetic potential for better growth, for more feed efficiency, for better calving ease. The only one that we keep steady is birth weight, because we talked about birth weight. You know, you want to maintain it at a certain threshold where you have good calving ease, but you're not impacting your growth potential a lot. But other than that, everything goes up. So that shows you that collectively we are using EPDs and we are genetic progress. And I'll show you the results of a study that we did that proves to you that the EPD predictions work. So what I did is I followed, I want to say 142 bulls. I followed them into the commercial sector, and I made them either low, medium, or high performance. I put them into 3 groups, okay? And on average, the lower performing, like the bulls that I said were lower performance based on their EPDs, well, on average, their calves did perform lower in the commercial environment. So you can see for yearling weight, for example, the calves from the lower performing bulls, the ones that the EPD said would be lower performing, they actually, their calves had lower yearling weights than the calves from the higher performing bulls. So that's evidence for you that the EPD predictions do work, okay? I'll leave you with this because I think it's a really fun discussion for all of you to have. So I showed you how EPDs work, and Lexi showed you how to record the pedigree and performance data. And then I just showed you how we can make that even more accurate by using genomic information. Well, the more and more technology evolves, the more precise our genetic selection can become. So let's talk about what might happen in the future. And this is just for the future, but I thought it might be a really good discussion for all of us to have. It's very new and it's kind of exciting, and I think you should all be aware of it. So you've all heard of GMOs and you've all heard of gene editing, but in case you haven't, I thought I could talk to you about it. I have a PhD in it, and maybe we can have an interesting discussion about whether these things are good or bad. So gene editing is when you either knock in or knock out an existing gene. So for example, this animal, and he's actually a recent Angus gene edited animal in the US. He's gene edited, so he's naturally a black-hided Angus animal, and he's gene edited, so they knocked out that black gene to make him red. Here are some gene edited animals. This is these are hogs that have been edited to be resistant to PRRS, which is a really significant disease in the hog industry. This guy is Cosmo, and he is a horned Holstein and has been, the pull gene was knocked in for him. So he is naturally now pulled. And this animal is a black and white Holstein who has been edited to be tan and white because he actually resides in a tropical part of Australia, and the tan color makes him heat tolerant. So he has better heat resistance, or temperature resistance, because he has a more moderate hide color. So I just thought this is far out, but this is quite a lot more precise in terms of genetic change, and it's new technology. And so I thought I can answer any of your questions that you might have about these as well, and about EPDs, because truly that is more the reality of today, of the tools we have today. But I just wanted to introduce you to some new technology too that you might be talking about at school or with your friends. And I can, yeah, we can have a discussion, and I can answer any of your questions. Okay, let me have a look at the chat and see what I can find for questions here. So Ashton, if you have a black bull and a red cow, so if the bull is homozygous black, and you breed that black bull to a red cow, you'll always have black calves. So the red cow will be homozygous red, which is recessive. So this is the genotype that a red cow will have, and this is a genotype that a black bull will have, okay? So all the calves will be black, but they'll be red carriers, okay? And there's a good little table of it in your breeder handbook, but if you have more questions about it, I can help you. Oops, sorry, I was messaging just Robert, sorry about that. So this is red, this is black, and the calves will be black, red carriers. So they'll be like this, okay? Homozygous is when an animal is one variation of gene at both spots. So each animal has 2 copies of every gene, and homozygous means the same. So Biggie, for example, is homozygous. Whereas if somebody says heterozygous, then that means different, 2 different variations or alleles for the same gene. So heterozygous. Hopefully that helps you visualize when I put it in the chat. What is the best trait or gene to have in a female? For me, and I think Lexi said this too, the biggest impact is fertility, because whether you have a calf that's 600 pounds or 605 at weaning, the 05 that's bonus, right? That's bonus 5 pounds. But if you don't have a calf at all, then you've spent the entire year breeding that cow, feeding that cow, and you don't have a calf to show for it. So maybe next time, if you guys want, I can certainly do a kind of give you guys an update on some of the research and development projects that we have going on. But we currently have a project on male fertility, looking at semen quality and how heritable different semen quality traits are. And then we also have a project on female fertility. But, you know, Lexi said how to input the female exposure information. You can also, there was a question about whether you could put it in on Angus Now and when that would come. And I just want to let you know, it's not available in Angus Now right now. Our programmers are still working on that. But in the meantime, you can actually input that data on an Excel spreadsheet. So it can be a lot easier than putting it in on paper. But we use that information to calculate the heifer pregnancy EPD. And that describes for you the probability of a heifer getting pregnant the first time she's exposed. And to me, that's probably the most important trait that you could select for, you know. And dairy has taught us this. If we want to look at other species and what's happened in other industries, you know, dairy shows that when you always just select for production, and in case of dairy, it was milk production, you can, and you don't maintain antagonistic traits, you can really lose your footing or give up genetic potential. So fertility to me is the most important. Now, fertility is dictated by, it's a complex trait. So there's lots of genes that contribute to fertility, but there's also a lot of environmental factors that contribute to fertility, including management and nutrition. Okay. Hopefully I'm answering your questions. Do you think genetic selection and increased knowledge of present traits and EPDs? Yeah, I really, Lainey, I think your question is fantastic, and we could discuss this, you know, for so long, but I truly think that we're at this point in I'll say livestock production, but specifically beef production, where we really need to create this connect with the consumer and articulate to them that we raise a fantastic product that's nutritious and safe and healthy, and really it should be their choice of food. And there's a lot of competition and a lot of communication that misleads them. Do you know what I mean? So I think that okay, so for example, I showed you the new EPDs that we have, and we have EPDs for feet and leg. We have new EPDs in development for teat and udder. We have a project on high immune response, so that we're selecting for animals that get sick less often, and when they do get sick, they get sick less severely. Those are really, really good news stories. They're great tools for us. We have feed efficiency EPDs. Using these EPDs and selecting for these traits is going to become very, very important. So I think that, you know, you're doing yourselves a favor by making sure you're in the know about all of these things. And that's why I wanted to end with the slide about gene editing and genetic modification, because I think there's so much communication out there where people they just see the label GMO and they think it's somehow better or not better, and don't really understand what it is and how it impacts their food and whether it's safe or not. So we need to be in the know so that we can start talking about these kind of things as well. Hopefully that helps you. And of course, like this is my opinion, but I'm interested to know what you guys think too. So feel free to put it in the chat or unmute yourself, and we can definitely discuss. What's the best way to take into consideration both the EPDs of the dam and sire? Morgan, I can show you the mating predictor. That's the best way to do it. You can, if you log into authorized users and use the mating predictor, you can put in however many bulls you want to use. Maybe you want to use 1, maybe you want to use 3, and then you can select your entire cow herd, and it will tell you which combination would be the best, basically, for all the traits, and then you can decide. So I can show you how to use that anytime you want. Okay. There's also I think we have some instructions online about it, but if you want a hands-on where I show you, I can share my screen and show you. Just give me a call. That's the best way to do it. And don't forget that Morgan's point is really important. You know, when you're searching for a sire and making your sire decisions, the cow also contributes 50% of that calf. So, you know, it's always important to make sure you're retaining the right females and that you're matching up the right bulls with the right females. Will the bull have more influence on the calf than the cow? That's a really good question, Sherry. I don't know if there's, in the scientific community, there's complete consensus to that. I'll say that it's 50-50 typically, but it can depend on the trait, because there are some places that the cow contributes more. She provides a permanent maternal environment, and we're learning more and more about it's not just which genes you have, it's also which genes are expressed. And that is dependent on a lot of times on environment and a lot of times on maternal environment. So there's research that shows, that's done right here in Alberta, University of Alberta. If a cow is pregnant and you withhold nutrition from her, her calf is more likely to overeat, be fat, even develop diabetes. So I think that your question is really good because it's quite complicated, and it's a good example of how genetics aren't straightforward or black and white. They're quite complex. Yeah, you're right, Lainey, that knowledge is power, and we need to be able to be well informed, not just to use the tools ourselves to make better cattle, but also to be able to talk about what tools we're using and why. Awesome questions. I don't want to take up a lot of your guys' time. If you have more questions, you're welcome to call me in the office or email me. I'm so happy to talk about genetic selection tools and genetic improvement. And I'll let you maybe get on with your program for this evening, but yeah, feel free to connect with me anytime you want.
Well, I think that was very informative there, Kajal. But yeah, like Kajal said, don't be afraid to ask anyone for information from the board, from the association. They'll all be able to direct you in the right direction. So if there's no more questions for Kajal, I think we should move on to Naomi here now. Naomi Best, alongside her family, own and operate Clay Hills Livestock just outside of Harding, Manitoba. Their operation consists of 150 purebred and commercial Black Angus cow-calf pairs. Naomi recently graduated from the University of Saskatchewan, where she obtained her Bachelor of Science in Agriculture with a major in Animal Science and a minor in Agribusiness. She is now employed at Fusion Credit Union as an agricultural and commercial lender, assisting those in her community with reaching their own operation goals. Naomi is currently the Canadian Angus president and has taken part in many of these opportunities from the Canadian Junior Angus Association. She will be speaking about a lot of these opportunities for everyone to take. So you can take it away there, Naomi.
Thanks, Robert. I hope everyone can hear me. I'll correct Robert. I am not the Canadian Angus president, the Canadian Junior Angus president, but close enough. So before we get started here, we are actually going to go through and introduce each of the board of directors, as we didn't do that when our presentation started. So we are going to start on the West Coast with our BC director. So if our directors want to turn on their cameras, introduce himself briefly, say who you are, where you're from, and position you have. So we'll go West Coast to East Coast.
I guess that means I start. My name is Sarah McDonald. I am the BC director for the Canadian Junior Angus Association. I grew up on a commercial cattle ranch in southern BC, and my family now ranches in northern BC. And aside from that, I'm studying agribusiness at Lakeland College, and I am the secretary with the CJA.
I guess I'll go first here, Tommy. My name is Robert Geis. I'm from Barhead, Alberta. I've been talking with you guys all night here. Should introduce myself earlier, but I just graduated from Vermilion College, where I majored in animal science technology and took a third year of agricultural business as well. But now I'm back full time at home, helping with my family operation, Geis Angus Farms, and we've been rebuilding and getting going back in the industry. So I'll pass it on to Tommy.
Yeah, thanks, Robert, and thanks to Naomi also for speaking tonight, and all of our other speakers. My name's Thomas Wildman. Me and my parents, we run a Toa cattle company, but right now I am vibing in the city of Edmonton, and I'm in my third semester of radio and television arts. So I've got one more semester to go after this one just finishes up. And so one day I hope to be on TV, but in the meantime, I'll just keep on plucking along with school and also helping out our farm back home at Sangudo. And I'm just a representative from Alberta.
Hey everyone, my name is Morgan Davey, and I'm a Saskatchewan director as well as the treasurer for the CJA. I'm from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan originally. Currently, I'm still there, where I'm going to school at the University of Saskatchewan, where I'm in my third year, pursuing a Bachelor's of Science in Agriculture, majoring in animal science and minoring in food and bioproduct science. Yeah, that's me. And yeah, like Thomas said, thanks to all the presenters and thanks for everyone for showing up. So have a good evening.
Hey guys, my name is Hillary Sauter. I'm from Hodgeville, Saskatchewan, where my mom and I own and operate Windy Willows Farms. We run about 100 purebred Black Angus cattle. I'm currently in my third year at Lakeland College taking egg business, and I will be heading home after my next semester.
I already introduced myself, or Robert did, so we're going to skip on to Ontario.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Morgan McIntyre. I am the Ontario director. I grew up just outside of Ottawa, where my parents and I run XL Livestock, just a small herd of purebred Simmental and Angus cattle. I'm currently living in Southern Ontario in London, working in my third year, working towards a degree in biotechnology. And I hope to continue working in the agriculture industry, hopefully working in a lab. I really enjoy research. So, yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Beverly Booth, and I'm from Jollycur, New Brunswick. I'm the Maritime Director. My family and I own and operate Dusty Breeze Farm. We have Black Angus and commercial cattle. Right now, I'm going to Dalhousie Agricultural College. I'm in my fourth year with a major in animal science and a minor in plant science.
Perfect. Belinda, do you want me to share my screen, or do we have a host to flip through the slides? Doesn't matter to me.
If you can do it yourself, it's probably better, but if you're having trouble, we can, if there's issues with the internet.
Let me try this 1 second. Okay, can everyone see my slides? Or do you just see my desktop?
You're good, Naomi.
Okay, so tonight we're going to talk about Canadian Junior Angus Opportunities. I'm actually going to turn my camera off if I can. Perfect.
Did you see the note from the kid from Australia? Wow, got up early to do it.
So, that being said, I might be able to flip through here. Sorry. Okay, so we are going to talk about awards, bursaries, and scholarships. So our first award that we're going to talk about is the Canadian Angus Foundation Robert C. McAfee Junior Ambassador. So on your slide, you can see that Riley Leeson is our 2021 Junior Ambassador. So the duties that this entails is it allows the opportunity for you to attend one international event. You are required to submit articles for certain publications, depending on what's published throughout the year. And then you also will post on social media throughout the year of your service as well. If you guys have any questions, just send them in the chat function, or you can ask at the end as well. So qualifications for this are that you must be a Canadian Junior Angus member and a Canadian citizen. You have to be 18 years old as of June 1 of the application year. Previous winners are not eligible to apply, and you must have a valid passport. So when applying, their weighting segments for this include 10% goes to your resume, 15% to your essay, 10% to the quiz, 40% to the interview, and then there's a video component as well, which is 25%. All of these opportunities that I'm going to speak about this evening as well are found on the Canadian Junior Angus website, which go into much more detail than what I'm providing for a synopsis on each award as well. The next award is the Canadian Junior Angus Stockman of the Year. This year, our Stockman is Cody Detzel. So to be considered for the award, nominations must be submitted by a Canadian Angus Association member by April 15th. Members are able to nominate themselves as well. You have to be a Canadian Junior Angus member between 16 and 21 as of January 1st of the award year. And nominations should include a picture of the nominee, their name, their birthday, what operation they're from, a nomination statement, and 2 letters of reference, one from a Canadian Angus Association member and one from a non-Canadian Angus Association member. Finalists are determined in May, and interviews are held virtually shortly after that. The Outstanding Young Angus Breeder Award was developed to recognize an Angus breeder between the age of 22 and 30 who has demonstrated a desire to stay involved in the Angus business for years to come, based on their involvement within the breed. The winners receive promotion and publicity of their Angus cattle operation throughout the Canadian Angus Association, plus a financial award. So to be considered for this, very similar to the last one, nominations have to be submitted by a Canadian Angus Association member by April 15th, and you can nominate yourself as well. This one is slightly different, where you're between the age of 22 and 30 as of January 1, the award year. Very similar information as well that must be submitted, name, age, operation, and a brief bio. You also have to get endorsement letters from 3 Canadian Angus members or industry leaders citing your involvement and dedication to the breed. There are 3 finalists who are determined in May, and interviews follow as well, with the award winner being announced at this Canadian Angus Association AGM. And nominations for this one are due April 15th. There are multiple bursaries that the Canadian Junior Angus and the Canadian Angus Foundation provide for us as well. The first one that I'm going to talk about is Showdown Travel and Trucking bursaries. So there are 6 Canadian Angus Foundation travel bursaries that are awarded in the amount of up to $750 to CJA members from anywhere in Canada. They must be used within the same year that you are applying for them, and it helps you offset travel and registration costs for Showdown. Trucking assistance can be provided for those who travel over 1,000 kilometers, and preference will be given to members who organize travel groups. So you can apply for yourself or in a group. So say there was a group coming from Ontario, you can apply in a group and have trucking assistance for that as well. Everyone must be a Canadian Junior Angus member, at least 15 years old, or accompanied by an adult. There's no interview for this, and you also will be asked to report on your trip, which will also be published in some of our publications. Your resume, and then you basically have to submit answers to the following questions, which are pretty easy, I'd say. So why you want to attend Showdown, what you hope to gain from the experience, what would make you a good candidate for the travel bursaries, and what will you provide the foundation in exchange for the ability to attend this event. So if you are traveling individually to Showdown, your application deadline is June 1, and the trucking deadline is May 25th. There are multiple gold travel bursaries as well. I know myself and a lot of others prior to being on the board had received these as well. Same thing, very similar to Showdown, it allows you to travel to goal as well. There are 8 Canadian Angus Foundation and 4 Canadian Junior Angus Gold Travel Bursaries that are awarded in the amount of up to $750 to 12 deserving Canadian Junior Angus members from anywhere in Canada. Again, bursaries must be used in the same year. You have to be a Canadian Junior Angus member, at least 15 years old, or accompanied by a parent or guardian, and then very similar cover sheet with your name, contact information, resume, and then the following question. So what do you want to attend? Why do you want to attend Goal? What do you hope to gain from it? And what would you do for the Canadian Angus Foundation and Canadian Junior Angus in exchange for your ability to attend? Another bursary that we have as well is the Connecting Food and Farm Bursary. I know many of us on the board have experienced those attending Goal or Showdown through this. So basically how it works is it was developed to encourage urban or non-livestock youth to attend one of our events with a certain member to learn about the industry. So a couple years ago, we had Macy Liebrick's friend attended from university to Goal in Moose Jaw, and then Megan McGilvery's friend attended Showdown in BC. So applicants have to be Canadian Junior Angus membership, and this can be sent in with your application as well. You are required to submit this within 30 days of the event. So if you have someone you're going to university or going to school with and you want to bring them to Showdown or Goal and think they would really benefit from that, then it's best to complete that at least 30 days before. Again, it includes their name, contact information, a pending or current Canadian Junior Angus membership number, and then who the member is that you will be attending with. And then again, there are some simple questions to answer as well that basically will be taken into consideration. That's that one. I noticed that my fellow Junior Angus member is on this call that I went on a self-directed travel bursary with. So these are national or international travel bursaries that are developed to assist young Angus breeders with financial travel assistance to conferences or events related to the beef industry itself. So that could be the Canadian Angus National Convention, Canadian Beef Industry Conference, Red Angus Association events, Beef Leaders Institute, so on and so forth, World Angus Forum, things like that. So same thing, Junior Angus member, preference will be given to those with a strong connection in the Angus breed, 18 to 30 years old. You have to have a valid passport, and then a written report is required within 30 days of the event that you plan to attend. Applications are due 15 days before the event that you wish to attend. So in 2019, I believe it was, I traveled to Toronto and attended the Canadian Young Speakers for Agriculture competition. And through that, I applied through the Canadian Angus Foundation, and they provided me with assistance to go to that. The next topic we're going to go into is scholarships. I understand I'm probably talking really fast right now. So if you have questions, feel free to put them into the chat function as well, or we can talk at the end too. So the first scholarship that I'm going to talk about is the Foundation Legacy Scholarship. Myself, along with most of those on the board, have partaken in this as well. So if you have any questions or it feels daunting, just let us know and we would gladly help you. So the Foundation Legacy Scholarship awards $11,000 to Canadian Junior Angus members, recognizing their overall academic achievement, leadership, community involvement, and industry knowledge. So awards are presented in the amount of $5,000, $3,000, $2,000, and $500 for the runners-up that are presented. So the application component can be found on our website as well. You have to submit an essay, a resume, so on and so forth. Your academic achievement is 25%. There is a personal interview that you complete with 2 or 3 different judges. And then the panel discussion is typically held at Goal on One of the evenings or afternoons where you're asked industry and personal questions, those types of
I'm
things.
just going to jump in here, Naomi.
Yep.
We actually adjusted the components this year, and I didn't notice this when you sent me this morning, so I apologize. But there's
That's okay.
actually a video component to this too. So these things are all now weighted at 20%, and there's also a video that will be required to be completed as part of this. So
Look at that.
just
I'm
so
learning
everyone's
something
aware if
new
you're
this
thinking about
evening.
applying, which you should be thinking about applying.
Yes, I think that all these opportunities that I'm speaking about, them when you first look at them, like I can remember being 15 and looking at like, oh, when I went to my first goal, I saw those up on the panel discussion for the Foundation Legacy Scholarship, and I thought, I don't know if I could ever get up there. And yeah, years went by and I applied, and looking back, it was a great opportunity. So yeah, definitely take into consideration these opportunities for you. There are some Canadian Junior Angus scholarships as well. So our membership, we allow these scholarships to be given to members. There are 3 that are awarded at Showdown annually in the amount of $2,000, $1,500, and $1,000. So you have to include your career plans, association involvement, extracurricular activities, school history, and reference. And applications are due for these June 15th annually. There is the Dick Turner Memorial Award. This should have been back in the awards section. I'm not entirely sure why it had moved. So this is a $1,000 award that is presented to an outstanding junior Angus individual who demonstrates leadership, community involvement, and Angus commitment. And applications for these are due May 15th. And this is Hilary Sauter, who introduced herself earlier, and she was a recipient of that this year. We're going to skip over that one because it was a one-year thing. The Angus Root Scholarships are presented at Showdown. So those of you who were at Showdown would have seen these being presented. It is given to the top 6 intermediate grant aggregates at Showdown each year, and it allows them to pursue their schooling. Next thing we're going to go talk about is travel opportunities. So the Canadian Angus Convention is held June 9th to 12th, 2022 in Moncton, New Brunswick. And if you're considering going, there are also travel bursaries available for that as well. There is the National Junior Angus Association Lead and the Junior Red Angus Red Roundup Exchange. So I went to the lead conference in 2019, and it was held in Nashville, Tennessee. And I highly recommend, if you ever have the opportunity to go to something like this, to go. It's neat to make connections with those that are in the States and how their junior operations go as well. We got to tour some different operations, and yeah, it was really neat. The Certified Angus Beef Junior Leader Conference is held annually in Worcester, Ohio. And I believe we have some board members maybe attending that here. The year I went, it was held in January, and I think it's being held in here shortly this year. And when we went, we got to learn all about the Certified Angus beef brand, everywhere from field to plate. So how they basically, yeah, everything that pertains to the Certified Angus beef and everything around that. And then next up, we have Goal, which is being held in 2022, February 19th to 21st in Toronto, Ontario. It's $125 to attend, and it starts Saturday afternoon and ends lunch around Monday. And the registration deadline for that is January 10th. We go, you get to see some of your fellow members, you get to learn from educational speakers. This year we'll experience Toronto, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. Showdown is being held July 27th to 29th in Brandon, Manitoba, as we have said for the last 3 years, but we're super excited to have it here in Manitoba next year. There are travel bursaries available for that as well. For those who don't know what Showdown is, there's a confirmation component to it as well as photography, scrapbook, graphic design, all those extra events as well, cook-offs, so on and so forth. Oops. And on that note, the last thing I want to comment on is a board opportunity as well. So every year, January 31st is the nomination deadline for board of directors. So if you're thinking that you want to join our board, you can send Belinda an email and she will definitely take that into consideration for any positions that are opened up as well. So as you can see, we had all introduced ourselves here before this. So that was my super quick talk about Canadian Junior Angus Opportunities. These are all available on our website as well. So yeah, you can go to there and take a look at those two. I'm going to see if I can stop sharing. There we go. I know there were some questions in the chat function as well. Yeah, like Morgan said, it's sometimes you might think, oh man, this is a lot to apply for. But as you notice, a lot of these opportunities have very similar requirements as well. So when you apply for one, there's definitely opportunity to apply for more than one as well. And you're more than welcome to send a message, Instagram, Facebook. I don't know if anyone emails these days, but to any of our board of directors, and we'll gladly help you with that as well. Are there any other questions?
Naomi, I have a question for you.
Okay, Sarah.
I know in the past that people that were applying for the ambassador position had to attend convention, but it wasn't noted on your screen today. Is that still the case or has that changed?
That is still the case. I know that last year with things being virtually, it was a little bit different. I think maybe Belinda could speak more to that. I didn't comment on that one as I didn't know how things were going to be proceeding this year.
Yeah, we definitely are planning for it to be held at convention and for the ambassador candidates to be able to experience that. And so part of the award is travel assistance to get to convention. So that the plan is, as of right now, that the 5 finalists would be attending convention in Moncton, New Brunswick, like we have in the past.
Awesome, thank you.
Any more questions too? Because here's some of the swag that I'm going to be sending out to, there'll be 3 lucky winners. And like Naomi said, apply. You know, you guys, and some of you are young, I know that, but when you have the opportunity, take it, because you never win if you don't apply, right, Robert?
That's right. I've got forced to apply to a lot of things, and I'm glad I did. A lot further than I ever would have. So
Forced is a terrible word, but no, you know what?
But I got
encouraged.
Yes, that's a better word.
And you know what? You're going to age out. Naomi's already aged out, you know, and so these, you think it's going to last forever, but it really doesn't. So take advantage when you can.
I'll be gone next year, and feels like yesterday I just came to. So
I agree with you, Robert. I feel like it was just yesterday that I attended my first school, and now I'm like, man, not that I'm getting old, but I'm like the end of your junior career. Morgan had a question about what opportunity she would recommend the most. This is a cliche answer, but I think each award or so on that I applied for had its unique highlight to it. I know that with a Foundation Legacy one, it seemed like so scary getting up there and doing that panel discussion. But once you did it, you just realized how much confidence you gained and you were more comfortable speaking in front of those, so on and so forth. For the travel bursary, I thought that was super neat to go and attend and speak at an event like that. I also went down to Nashville for the LEAD conference, and then met so many of those same people that I met down there when I went back for the certified Angus beef thing. So just like we've said before, apply for as many as you want, because you never know where your paths will cross with those that you connect with. So,
and I think the ambassadorship is an unbelievable opportunity. That's really the only one that I've really got to really went in depth with, but it was I never did win it, but even just the opportunity to go and speak at a lot of the different conferences and meet people. I got to travel to BC, and I guess Drumheller was my other one, but I did go to all the other conferences as well. But just the opportunity to get out and see producers and just to get in touch with all the other members is very meaningful to me anyway.
Like Robert commented on, each of us have applied to our own separate things. So if you have any questions, if you're considering applying for the ambassador position, reach out to Robert. I'm sure he could help you. Or I've had people come up to me at goal before they go up for their panel discussion and ask how to prepare for it. So a lot of us have been there before, and we would gladly help you because we want to see you succeed and help you reach those goals.
All right. So if there isn't anything else, we'll do the draw. No one else is going to speak. All right. So Lainey, you have won a hoodie, and I know you reached out to me after the last session because you saw that someone had one. So aren't you a lucky girl? Now you're going to have one. And Lucas, you're getting the toque and the Christmas decoration, which is super cool. And Cade, you're getting the red toque and the Christmas decoration. So awesome. Thank you very much, everyone. Again, thank you, Naomi, for presenting and Robert for emceeing. And Robert's going to stay on for a couple minutes and just help us out with recording something. So if everybody else just wants to say goodnight, and we'll wish you all a happy holidays and a Merry Christmas. And we'll hopefully see a bunch of you in February, and we'll be doing more of these, I think. So stay tuned for when the next one will be scheduled.